What if I told you that what you do in the first 24 hours after getting paid determines whether you build wealth or stay broke forever? Most people get their paycheck, feel a rush of excitement, and then somehow end up wondering where all that money went 3 weeks later. Sound familiar? That cycle isn't happening by accident. It's happening because nobody ever taught you what to actually do when money hits your account. But today, that changes. I'm going to walk you through an exact payday routine, step by step, that will completely transform how you handle money. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to show you the one move that most financial advisors never talk about, but that separates people who actually build wealth from people who just look like they're building wealth. So let's get into it. First, let me paint you a picture. It's payday. Your bank notification pops up on your phone, that familiar little dopamine hit rushes through your body, you check the number, nod to yourself, and then what? If you're like most people, you probably check what bills are coming out, maybe treat yourself to something nice because, hey, you worked hard and you deserve it, and then you just kind of let the rest of the money flow wherever it wants to go. And then 2 weeks later, you're counting days until the next paycheck. This is what I call the paycheck to paycheck trap. And it doesn't just affect broke people. Studies consistently show that a significant portion of people earning 6 figures still live paycheck to paycheck. The problem is never the income. The problem is always the system, or the complete lack of one. So here is the system. Here is the exact routine you need to run every single time money hits your account. I call it the 24-hour payday protocol, and it has 5 steps that need to happen in a very specific order. The order matters just as much as the steps themselves, so don't skip around. Step 1 is what I call the pause. This might sound simple, but it is genuinely the hardest part for most people. When money arrives in your account, your brain immediately starts generating ideas about what to do with it. Your wants start screaming louder than your needs. That jacket you've been eyeing, that weekend trip that popped up on your feed, that dinner you've been wanting to try. All of that noise is completely normal, but here's what you have to understand. The moment you act on impulse with your money is the moment you hand control of your financial future to your emotions. So the pause is simply this. When your paycheck hits, you do absolutely nothing for at least 1 hour. No shopping, no transfers, no Venmo requests, nothing. Just let it sit there. This one discipline alone will save you from more bad financial decisions than any budget spreadsheet ever could. Your brain needs time to shift from emotional mode to rational mode, and that transition doesn't happen instantly. Give yourself that space. Now, during that pause, what you're actually doing is running a mental reset. You're reminding yourself of your actual financial goals. You're thinking about where you want to be in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years. When you make financial decisions while anchored to your future goals rather than your present emotions, you make dramatically better choices. It's the same reason you should never go grocery shopping when you're hungry. You're playing the game on hard mode when you let your impulses lead. Step 2 is what I call pay yourself first, and I mean this in a very literal and immediate sense. Not after bills, not after groceries, not after everything else is handled. First. The moment that pause period is over, the very first transaction you make with your paycheck is moving money into your savings or your investment accounts, before anything else touches that money, before you even log into your bills. This is the foundational principle that separates wealth builders from wealth consumers, and it works because it completely flips the script on how most people approach saving. Most people think of saving as what's left over after spending. Wealth builders think of spending as what's left over after saving. That mental reframe is everything. Now, how much should you move? A good starting benchmark is 10% of your take-home pay. If that feels impossible right now, start with 5%. If 5% feels impossible, start with 1%. The amount is less important than the habit in the beginning. You are training your brain and your behavior to treat saving as non-negotiable. And over time, as your income grows or your expenses shrink, you increase that percentage. But the key is that this step happens before anything else, every single time without exception. Where does this money go? You need at least two separate destinations for this first move. A portion goes into an emergency fund if you don't already have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. This is your financial foundation, and nothing else gets prioritized until this foundation is solid. The other portion goes into some form of investment account, whether that's a retirement account, an index fund, a brokerage account, whatever makes sense for your situation. The point is, that money goes to work for you immediately before it has any chance to get spent. Step 3 is the bill audit, and this is where most payday routines go wrong. People either completely ignore their bills until they're due and then scramble, or they just set everything to autopay and never look at it again. Both approaches cost you money. What you need to do during your payday routine is spend about 15 minutes reviewing every single recurring charge that will be drawn from your account before your next paycheck. Look at every subscription, look at every auto payment, look at every bill, and ask yourself 3 questions about each one. First, is this still active and am I actually using it? Second, is the amount correct and the same as last month? Third, is there a cheaper alternative available right now? This 15-minute exercise regularly uncovers charges that people have completely forgotten about. Subscriptions from free trials that converted to paid, services you canceled that never actually stopped billing you, old memberships you haven't touched in months. Finding even $20 or $30 a month of wasted spending might not sound like much, but over a year, that's money that could be sitting in an investment account growing for you instead of going to a streaming service you haven't opened since last spring. There's a bonus element to the step that most people overlook entirely. After reviewing your fixed expenses, take a look at your variable bill categories from last pay period. Groceries, eating out, entertainment, gas, online shopping. Not to judge yourself, but just to observe, just to see the data. You can't optimize what you don't measure, and most people genuinely don't know where their money is going. Seeing it laid out is often the motivation needed to actually make changes. Step 4 is what I call the allocation sprint, and this is where you actually distribute the remaining money after your savings are funded and your bills are accounted for. This step should take you no more than 30 minutes, but it requires your full, undivided attention. No TV in the background, no scrolling, just you and your finances for 30 focused minutes. Here's how the allocation works. Start by listing every dollar you know is going out before your next paycheck. Fixed bills, debt minimums, subscriptions, everything you just audited in Step 3. Subtract that from what's left after your savings move in Step 2. What remains is your discretionary income for the period. Now you divide it into categories based on your actual life. Groceries, gas, personal care, social spending, whatever categories are real for you. And here is the critical move that almost nobody does, but that makes an enormous difference. You assign every single dollar to a category before you spend a single one of them. You don't need a complicated app for this. You can do it in a notes app on your phone or in a simple spreadsheet. But every dollar needs a job. Money without a job in your financial life is money that will disappear. It has nowhere to go but out. This is called zero-based budgeting, and it's genuinely one of the most powerful financial tools available to regular people. You start with your take-home amount after savings, subtract everything you owe, and then assign every remaining dollar to a spending category until you reach zero. Zero doesn't mean you're broke, it means every dollar has a purpose. Some of those dollars go to fun, some go to food, some go to random life stuff, but they all have a destination you chose rather than one that chose itself. Step 5 is the forward move, and this is the step I promised you at the beginning that most financial advice completely skips over. After you've paused, paid yourself first, audited your bills, and allocated every dollar, you do one thing designed not for this pay period, but for a future version of your life. Every single payday, you take one deliberate action toward a financial goal that's bigger than your immediate budget. One action, that's it. Sometimes that action is researching a side income opportunity for 20 minutes. Sometimes it's increasing your automatic investment contribution by 1%. Sometimes it's reading one chapter of a personal finance book. Sometimes it's scheduling a free consultation with a financial advisor. Sometimes it's paying an extra $50 toward your highest interest debt. The specific action changes, but the principle is consistent. Every payday, you do something, no matter how small, that your future self will thank you for. Here's why this step is so powerful and why it's often the missing piece. Most people manage money reactively. They respond to what's happening right now, the bills that are due, the things they need this week, the expenses popping up. Managing money reactively keeps you permanently stuck in the present tense of your finances. You're always putting out fires and never building anything. The forward move is what breaks that cycle. It forces you to engage with your financial future at least once every pay period, and over time, those small forward actions compound into massive changes. The person who increases their investment contribution by 1% every few months, will end up with a dramatically different retirement than the person who set it and forgot it years ago. The person who spends 20 minutes every payday looking for ways to earn more will eventually find one. Small, consistent forward actions are the engine of financial progress. Now, let me talk about timing, because timing matters a lot here. The entire 5-step payday protocol should happen on payday itself, ideally within the first 2 to 4 hours of your paycheck arriving. Not the next day, not the weekend, the day it hits. Here's why. Every hour that passes between your paycheck arriving and you running your protocol is an hour where money can slip out through impulse purchases, unplanned expenses, and poor decisions made without a plan. The longer you wait, the more of your paycheck gets consumed by chaos before you've had a chance to direct it intentionally. Payday morning should include your protocol the same way it includes brushing your teeth. It's not optional, it's maintenance. For people who get paid on a schedule, whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, this protocol works the same way. Monthly earners especially need to take step 4 seriously because you're making decisions about a larger sum of money for a longer time horizon, and the consequences of poor allocation are felt for a full month rather than just 2 weeks. Freelancers and people with irregular income need a slightly adapted version of this routine. Instead of running it on a set payday, run it every time income arrives and build a baseline set of expenses you know you need to cover regardless of when money comes in. I want to address something that might be coming up for you right now. What if there's genuinely nothing left after bills? What if the math just doesn't work? This is real for a lot of people, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. If you're in a situation where your income truly doesn't cover your basic needs, the forward move becomes the most important step of all, because your primary financial goal right now is increasing income. Every payday, your one forward action needs to be something that moves you closer to earning more. A skill you're developing, a job application, a side hustle lead you're following up on, an online course you're investing a small amount into. The protocol still applies, you just adapt the focus of each step to your actual situation. Step 2 might be saving literally $5 right now. That's fine. The habit is what matters. Step 4 might show you that your income truly isn't sufficient, and that's critical information because it tells you exactly where your energy needs to go. There is also something important I want to say about debt. If you're carrying high-interest debt, particularly credit card debt, that debt needs a specific category in your allocation step. Beyond paying the minimum, you should be directing as much discretionary money as you can toward eliminating the debt that's costing you the most in interest. High-interest debt is one of the most powerful wealth destroyers out there because it compounds against you the same way investments compound for you. Every month you're carrying a balance on a high-interest card, that balance is growing. Getting aggressive about eliminating it is one of the highest return financial moves you can make. But here's where people get this wrong. They put everything toward debt elimination and nothing towards savings, which means the moment an unexpected expense hits, they have no buffer and they end up right back on the credit card. So even while aggressively paying down debt, maintain a small savings contribution in step 2. Even if it's tiny, having even a small emergency fund prevents the cycle of debt repayment and reaccumulation that traps so many people indefinitely. Let me give you a real picture of what this looks like in practice. Let's say you get paid $2,000 every 2 weeks. Your protocol would look like this. The paycheck hits, and you pause. You let it sit for an hour while you mentally reconnect with your financial goals. Then you move $200 immediately into your savings and investment accounts. That's your 10%. Then you spend 15 minutes reviewing every recurring charge